Home insurance has been the big story in Louisiana since the hurricanes of 2020 and 21, and now some people who own homes in the state are facing dramatic rate hikes in their home insurance from the insurer of last resort. Louisiana Citizens Property is that insurer. Jim Donelon, Insurance Commissioner, you're here with us to give us the latest, and this has to be something that's kept you up at night.
No question about it. We have worked Citizens down from 173,000 policies, their all-time peak, right after Katrina Rita, to 35,000 policies when Laura hit Lake Charles 2 years ago. And that was a Herculean task and accomplishment. It was down from 10% of our property was insured through Citizens to 0.5%. We actually had to slow down the takeout to maintain a infrastructure at Citizens for the next big catastrophe.
So to even have this kind of last resort insurance is an important big deal. The rate hikes, though, 63% for those impacted.
And that rate hike is driven virtually entirely by the cost of reinsurance that Citizens pays to reinsure their risk. We don't have enough business in North Louisiana to just spread our coastal exposure across our state. So we use the insurer of last resort, as all the insurers doing business in the state use the international reinsurance marketplace to spread our risk around the world, not just to North Louisiana.
Now, Jim, there were 9 insurance companies that went belly up, is that correct?
7 with under umbrellas, 2 more that were part of the 7.
And then others just stopped doing the typical business that they do.
Almost all. Okay. In the aftermath of hurricanes like the 2 we experienced the last 2 years.
Right.
Insurers paid $23 billion for Laura and Ida damages. Wind damage, not flood, and that $23 billion was paid over 800,000 claims as a result of the 4 hurricanes during the past 2 hurricane seasons.
Will there be people who have to make a decision? Do I get my medicine or do I have home insurance? It's got to be difficult for some.
No question about it. And the National Flood Insurance Program has just recently rolled out Risk Rating 2.0, a whole new way of pricing flood insurance for property owners nationwide. And the Advocate just trumpeted a study they did on the new system that says that represents a 120% rate increase for the average flood insurance policyholders, 500,000 of them in Louisiana, as a result of changing from the old system of pricing flood insurance to this new Risk Rating 2.0 system.
Has this kept you busier than you've ever been?
Ever been.
It seems like.
Indeed. It has been quite the challenge, but I've seen us get through it before. I know we're going to get through it again. We have a plan. It worked before. It's going to work again.
So what steps have to take place for that plan you're speaking of
Our plan,
to be implemented?
Let's talk, if I may, about some things we did in the legislature.
Sure, yes,
that I think going forward really make a difference.
Because you were thankful for the work that was done.
They really were. First of all, they did no harm. As with medical students, that's the first goal of every legislative session. Secondly, they did several things to improve our market to make it more attractive to companies to come write insurance in Louisiana.
Because we need companies to come back in.
Absolutely.
Don't we?
My job is to balance affordability with availability of insurance. And the first thing we did, the most important bill in the session, Senator Joe Bowie of New Orleans offered for us. And that raised the requirement of cash and surplus that companies have to have in order to get a license, from $3 million to $10 million. We actually copied that. Florida did it from $2 million to $15 million about 3 or 4 years ago. What that means is those owners of those companies will have more skin in the game when they go to the reinsurance market to buy reinsurance to protect their investment, $10 million now, and their policyholders from going through what the failed companies put those policyholders through.
You mentioned this before, these stronger companies coming in to take the place of those companies that couldn't make it. That's the key to this, right?
Absolutely. And one of those that failed, I insured my home with.
I remember you said that.
10 years ago.
That's right.
10 years ago, my premium went from a big national carrier, $1,000 a month on my home we built in Metairie in 1975, to $400 a month. If you stretch that over 10 years, I've saved $75,000 in premiums while insured by this smaller company.
It's very complex. It's very interconnected. Indeed. What else do you need to leave us with of the latest thing that will happen next?
The most important thing for our recovery, which is the incentive program, copied off of what we did in the aftermath of Katrina Rita, offering grants to companies to come write property insurance in our state.
We appreciate what you've done. I knew little about insurance, but you've taught me so much, just talking to you so much. So, Jim, thank you for being here.
Glad to be with you, Andre.